Some places are shaped by crowds, others by conflict. This one was shaped by distance. New Zealand exists at the edge of the world map, separated by thousands of kilometers of open ocean. For centuries, this isolation allowed landscapes to form without interruption, without compression, and without haste. Mountains rise sharply from narrow plains. Rivers move freely through wide valleys. Coastlines stretch uninterrupted, meeting open water without resistance. Here, geography was allowed to finish its work. New Zealand is not vast by size, yet it contains extraordinary variation. Alpine regions, volcanic plateaus, glacial valleys, rolling farmland, and long open coastlines. The journey begins across a country where distance preserved detail and time shaped land with precision. New Zealand consists of 2 main islands, along with smaller surrounding islands. These landmasses sit along the boundary of major tectonic plates, placing the country among the most geologically active on Earth. This tectonic position created towering mountain ranges, deep fault valleys, and volcanic zones that remain visible today. Unlike many regions shaped by urban expansion, New Zealand's development followed the land carefully. Cities remain compact. Large areas of open terrain are protected. Infrastructure follows natural contours rather than reshaping them. The country's rivers begin high in the mountains and travel unobstructed toward the sea. Lakes occupy basins formed by ice and movement, serving as natural reservoirs and travel corridors. Isolation also influenced culture. Human settlement arrived later here than in most parts of the world. This allowed ecosystems to develop independently, resulting in unique wildlife and distinctive natural systems. Today, conservation plays a central role in national identity. Large tracts of land are preserved as national parks and protected areas, ensuring that development remains limited and landscapes remain accessible. New Zealand's identity emerges from this balance between natural power and careful restraint. Before moving deeper into the journey, a brief pause. If this calm beginning feels meaningful, a gentle subscribe helps support the journey and keeps these films alive. Now, the land begins to unfold. The North Island. Volcanic foundations. The North Island carries a different character from the south. Here, the land reveals its volcanic origins. Plateaus rise gradually, shaped by eruptions that occurred over thousands of years. Thermal regions mark areas where heat remains close to the surface, while wide plains support agriculture and modern cities. Auckland. Built across ancient volcanoes, Auckland stands on a narrow isthmus, positioned between 2 major bodies of water. The city is built across numerous dormant volcanic cones, their shapes forming natural landmarks within the urban landscape. Despite being New Zealand's largest city, Auckland remains closely connected to open land. Parks occupy former volcanic sites. Coastlines remain accessible. Harbors continue to define daily movement. This relationship between city and terrain reflects a national approach, development guided by geography, not imposed upon it. Central volcanic plateau, land-shaped. From below at the heart of the North Island lies the Central Volcanic Plateau, a region formed by repeated volcanic activity that reshaped the land over long periods of time. The plateau sits at a higher elevation than surrounding areas, creating wide open spaces framed by distant mountain systems. Its surface shows clear evidence of geological movement: lava flows, hardened ash layers, and broad plains formed by earlier eruptions. This area plays an important role in understanding New Zealand's geological structure. It marks the boundary between tectonic forces that continue to shape the country today. Roads crossing the plateau follow stable ground, avoiding fragile zones and respecting the land's ongoing activity. Settlements remain limited, with development carefully managed. The result is a landscape that feels open and powerful, defined by form rather than detail. Tongariro National Park, a protected volcanic landscape. Within the plateau lies Tongariro National Park, one of New Zealand's oldest protected areas. The park contains several prominent volcanic peaks and wide expanses of hardened terrain. Its status as a national park. Hiking routes cross the park, allowing controlled access without large-scale disruption. Paths are clearly marked, and movement remains guided to protect sensitive areas. Tongariro represents New Zealand's commitment to preservation, a recognition that some landscapes must remain primarily untouched. Rotorua, thermal activity and cultural connection. North of the plateau lies Rotorua, a region known for visible geothermal activity close to the surface. Here, the ground releases heat through vents and pools, reminding visitors that volcanic forces remain active. This activity shaped the surrounding terrain, creating flat areas used for settlement and elevated zones left undeveloped. This reflects a broader New Zealand approach, acknowledging the land as both a physical space and a living system connected to identity. Lakes of the North Island, basins of stability. Scattered across the North Island are numerous lakes formed by volcanic collapse and tectonic movement. These bodies of water occupy natural basins, providing stability in an otherwise dynamic region. They serve as reservoirs, recreational spaces, and natural separators between landforms. Towns often sit along lake edges, positioned on stable ground with access to transport routes and open land. The presence of lakes moderates local conditions, supporting agriculture and encouraging long-term settlement. These inland waters contribute to the overall structure of the island, balancing elevated plateaus with lower accessible terrain. Wellington, capital at the edge of land and sea at the southern tip of the North Island, stands Wellington, New Zealand's capital city. Its position between hills and open water creates a compact urban layout shaped by terrain rather than expansion. Government buildings, cultural institutions, and residential areas are arranged efficiently, connected by public transport and walkways. Wellington's harbour provides natural access to maritime routes, while surrounding hills limit outward growth. This containment encourages density without congestion, maintaining a balance between urban life and surrounding open space. As a capital, Wellington represents administrative function rather than spectacle, a city defined by purpose and location. Cook Strait, a natural divider. Separating the North and South Islands is Cook Strait, a narrow stretch of water that marks a significant geological boundary. This passage connects two very different landscapes. Its currents reflect the movement of larger ocean systems that influence New Zealand's environment. Ferries cross the strait regularly, serving as a vital link between the islands. The transition across Cook Strait signals a shift in geography, from volcanic plateaus to more extensive alpine systems. It is here that the journey turns south. The South Island, mountains, ice, and open space crossing into the South Island marks a clear transition. The land becomes taller, wider, and more sharply defined. Mountain systems dominate the interior, while long coastlines frame the edges. This island carries much of New Zealand's alpine identity. Its terrain reflects powerful tectonic forces that pushed rock upward over millions of years, forming a continuous mountain spine. The South Island feels less compressed. Distances stretch longer, settlements appear farther apart. The scale of the land becomes more apparent with each route inland. The Southern Alps, a continuous mountain system. The Southern Alps run almost the entire length of the island, forming a natural barrier between east and west. These mountains rise abruptly from surrounding plains, creating sharp elevation changes that shape climate, river systems, and patterns of settlement. Many of New Zealand's highest peaks are located within this range. Their slopes feed rivers that travel toward opposite coasts, dividing the island into distinct drainage systems. Roads and rail lines crossing the Southern Alps follow limited passes, using natural gaps created by erosion and movement. This restriction shaped development, concentrating travel along a small number of routes and preserving large areas of open land. AorakiMountCook region, Alpine core near the center of the Southern Alps, lies the AorakiMountCook region, home to New Zealand's highest mountain. The surrounding area consists of high valleys, glacial formations, and open alpine basins. This region remains sparsely settled, with development focused on access rather than expansion. Small service centers support travel and research, while large portions of land remain protected. Walking tracks allow controlled movement through the landscape, offering access to elevated viewpoints without disturbing sensitive areas. The AorakiMountCook region represents the alpine core of New Zealand, a place where terrain defines the experience more than infrastructure. Glacial valleys, shaped by movement. Glaciers once filled many of the valleys that cut through the Southern Alps. As ice advanced and retreated, it carved wide troughs, leaving behind smooth valley floors and steep rock walls. Today, these valleys provide natural corridors for travel and settlement. Roads follow their length, while rivers occupy the lowest points. The scale of these valleys reveals the force that shaped them, a slow, persistent movement that redefined entire regions. Though glaciers have receded, their impact remains visible in the structure of the land. CanterburyPlains, a broad agricultural region. East of the Southern Alps, the land opens into the CanterburyPlains. This broad, flat region was formed by sediment carried down from the mountains over thousands of years. The plains support agriculture on a large scale, with farms arranged in organized patterns that reflect careful land management. Rivers cross the plains in wide channels, their paths shifting gradually as they move toward the coast. Cities and towns developed along these routes, taking advantage of fertile land and accessible transport corridors. The CanterburyPlains serve as a counterbalance to the rugged interior, open, structured, and productive. Christchurch, a rebuilt urban center. Christchurch sits near the eastern edge of the plains, positioned between farmland and coastline. The city has undergone significant rebuilding in recent years, resulting in modern infrastructure combined with open public spaces. Urban planning emphasizes accessibility, with wide streets, green corridors, and a focus on resilience. Christchurch functions as a gateway between the plains and the mountains, supporting both agricultural regions and alpine travel routes. Its development reflects New Zealand's broader approach, adapting to change while maintaining long-term stability. Alpine passes, routes through the spine. Several major passes cross the Southern Alps, linking east and west. These routes follow river valleys and low points in the range, minimizing disruption while providing essential connections. Transport through these passes supports trade, tourism, and daily movement between regions. Despite their importance, these corridors remain limited in number, preserving the surrounding landscape from excessive development. Travel through an alpine pass offers a clear sense of transition, from open plains into steep mountain terrain, and then outward again toward the coast. High country settlements, life at elevation scattered across the interior, are small settlements located at higher elevations. These communities developed around farming, transport services, and seasonal activity. Buildings are spaced widely, reflecting the availability of land and the demands of the environment. Life here follows a slower rhythm, guided by terrain and access routes rather than population density. High country settlements highlight New Zealand's relationship with space, valuing openness, self-sufficiency, and long-term sustainability. Fjordland, a landscape carved deep. Along the southwestern edge of the South Island lies Fjordland, one of the most remote and least populated regions in the country. This area is defined by deep inlets, steep valley walls, and long stretches of land that remain largely unchanged. The terrain here was shaped by massive glaciers that moved slowly from the interior toward the sea, cutting channels into solid rock. As the ice retreated, water filled these channels, forming narrow waterways bordered by tall cliffs. Fjordland remains protected on a large scale, with limited road access and strict controls on development. This preservation allows the region to retain its original structure, a place where landform dominates experience. MilfordSound, a natural passageway. Within Fjordland lies MilfordSound, one of New Zealand's most well-known natural features. Despite its name, it is a fjord formed by glacial movement, not a traditional sound. The inlet stretches inland from the coast, its narrow shape framed by steep rock faces that rise directly from the water. Boat travel is the primary way to move through this space, offering a steady perspective on the scale of the surrounding terrain. MilfordSound's importance lies not in decoration, but in its structure, a clear example of how ice and movement can reshape a coastline. It stands as one of the most accessible points for observing Fjordland's defining features. Fjordland National Park. Preservation at scale, Fjordland National Park covers a vast area, making it one of the largest protected regions in the Southern Hemisphere. The park includes mountains, valleys, lakes, and extensive coastline, all managed under strict conservation policies. Human access is provided through marked tracks and limited transport routes, ensuring minimal disruption to ecosystems. This approach allows long-term protection while still enabling exploration. Fjordland demonstrates New Zealand's commitment to preserving large, connected landscapes rather than isolated sites. Scenic highways travel through open space outside major cities. New Zealand's highways often serve as scenic routes through open terrain. In the South Island, Roads follow valleys, coastlines, and mountain edges, offering long, uninterrupted views of surrounding landforms. Engineering remains practical and restrained. Roads curve where terrain requires. Bridges cross only where necessary. These routes provide access without altering the land's structure, supporting movement while maintaining openness. Travel becomes part of the experience, not merely a transition between destinations. Southern coastlines, land meeting, open water. The southern edge of the South Island meets expansive ocean systems that influence weather, marine life, and coastal erosion. Cliffs, beaches, and rolling headlands define this meeting point. Settlements along the southern coast remain small and widely spaced, shaped by access and resource availability. Fishing and marine research play an important role here, supported by ports designed for safety and durability. These coastlines reflect the country's broader pattern, development that adapts to geography rather than reshaping it. Marine environments, life beyond the shore. Waters surrounding New Zealand support diverse marine ecosystems. Currents carry nutrients along the coast, supporting fisheries and wildlife. Marine reserves protect key habitats, limiting commercial activity and ensuring long-term sustainability. This protection extends the country's conservation ethic beyond land, recognizing the importance of surrounding waters in maintaining ecological balance. If this journey through New Zealand feels steady and grounding, a simple subscribe helps support future films like this one. The path continues. Otago, open land and long horizons moving east and south. The landscape opens once again. Otago is defined by wide basins, walling high country, and long distances between settlements. Here, elevation softens but space expands. The region developed around farming, mining routes, and later transport corridors that connected inland areas to the coast. Land use remains carefully managed. Large properties occupy open terrain, while towns remain compact and purpose-driven. Otago's geography encourages visibility, long sightlines across plains, clear views of surrounding hills, and a sense of scale that extends outward without interruption. This openness forms a contrast to the enclosed valleys and fjords seen earlier in the journey. Queenstown, Alpine access and tourism. Near the center of the Southern Lakes region lies Queenstown, one of New Zealand's most recognized destinations. The town developed at the edge of a large lake, surrounded by steep alpine terrain. Its location made it a natural base for accessing surrounding mountains and inland routes. Tourism plays a central role here, yet development remains guided by terrain. Buildings follow natural contours. Access points are carefully controlled. Expansion is limited by surrounding landforms. Queenstown reflects New Zealand's approach to tourism in sensitive environments. Concentrated activity in specific zones, balanced by extensive protected areas nearby. The surrounding region supports hiking, mountain transport systems, and high country travel without widespread disruption. Southern lakes, basins, formed by ice. Several large lakes occupy the southern interior, formed by glacial movement during earlier ice ages. These lakes sit within long valleys, their shorelines following the shape of former glaciers. Towns along these lakes remain closely tied to transport routes and seasonal activity. Boat travel, road access, and walking paths connect communities without altering the natural layout of the land. The lakes serve as organizing features, structuring settlement, moderating local conditions, and supporting both human use and ecological stability. Stewart Island, distance and restraint south of the main islands, lies Stewart Island, separated by a narrow stretch of water. This island remains sparsely populated, with most of its land protected as national park. Development here is minimal. Access is limited. Movement follows established paths and coastal routes. Stewart Island represents New Zealand's most restrained approach to land use. Preservation prioritized over expansion. Its presence reinforces a national principle. Some places remain valuable because they are left largely unchanged. Beyond mountains and coastlines, New Zealand's identity is also shaped by wide agricultural regions that support both daily life and long-term sustainability. Farmland spreads across valleys, plains, and rolling interior hills, where terrain allows cultivation without heavy modification. These areas were shaped gradually by sediment, river movement, and glacial retreat, creating stable ground for long-term use. Farming here follows a structured rhythm. Fields are divided with care, access roads remain narrow and efficient, and buildings are placed for function rather than scale. Settlements remain small, serving as service centers rather than expanding outward. Livestock farming plays a major role, particularly sheep and cattle, supported by open grazing land and seasonal movement between regions. Crop farming occupies flatter areas, where soil depth and drainage allow consistent production. Water management is central to this system. Rivers crossing farmland are monitored closely, with irrigation designed to minimize waste and protect downstream ecosystems. This balance ensures productivity without exhausting natural resources. Farmland also acts as a buffer, transitioning between wild landscapes and urban centers. It preserves open space, maintains ecological corridors, and keeps development concentrated rather than scattered. In many regions, farming families have worked the same land for generations, adapting practices as environmental standards evolved. Modern agriculture here emphasizes soil health, animal welfare, and long-term land stewardship. New Zealand's farmland does not compete with its natural landscapes. It complements them, quietly sustaining the country while allowing mountains, rivers, and coastlines to remain dominant. This working land represents a different kind of beauty, one built on patience, responsibility, and continuity. New Zealand does not rely on density to define itself. Its identity comes from space. Space between mountains, space between towns, space that allows land to remain dominant. Each region contributes to a broader structure built from tectonic movement, glacial shaping, and deliberate restraint. From volcanic plateaus to alpine valleys, from inland plains to open coastlines, the land maintains a clarity that remains consistent throughout the journey. This is a country that unfolds slowly, revealing itself through form, distance, and balance. For more journeys shaped with this quiet focus, a simple subscribe helps support future films and keeps these stories moving forward. Thank you for traveling through New Zealand. The next destination is already waiting.